Deborah, welcome. Thank you very much for being willing to be interviewed. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Well, I'm Deborah, and I live in Barwick in Elmet. Married to Andrew. We've got two grown-up children, and who are both married, and we've got a little grandson who also lives in Barwick. I suppose the thing that's foremost on my mind at the moment is the fact that I retired yesterday.
Well,
after 38, thank you very much. After 38 years of working in the NHS, so I joined the NHS back in 1982, straight from university, as on the graduate management training scheme. And I suppose in the last few weeks I've been reflecting quite a lot on my career, and particularly at this time, just so grateful for all the friends I've made through my career and the experiences that come my way, and the opportunity I've had to work for an organisation, a service that I passionately believe in. But I didn't always want to be a hospital manager. I don't think many people do, to be honest. I grew up in Coventry in the 1960s, which at the time was I suppose the capital of the British motor industry and steeped in transport history. And there was only one thing I wanted to be when I was growing up, my mum and dad will tell you, and that's I wanted to be a bus conductor. But sadly that didn't work out for me. And when I went to university, I actually wanted to be a social worker. So hospital management still hadn't reared its head. But when I got to university, I think the course that interested me the most was one about health service policy and inequality. And I suppose for the first time I came to understand what an amazing thing the NHS is, and how, I suppose, visionary that post-war Labour government was to set up a healthcare system based on need rather than the ability to pay. And I also read a book called A Way to Die, which was written by the parents of a girl called Jane Zorza, who at the time was not much older than me, but who died of cancer. And it basically told the story of her last few months and her care and treatment in a hospice. And I'd never heard of hospice before. And sort of blew me away, really, the emphasis on sort of individualised, personalised care. And I suppose the long and short of it was I then did my elective in a hospice in a Marie Curie hospice in Birmingham, and felt the calling to health services management. So I applied for the graduate management training scheme and was accepted. And I've spent my career working in hospitals, managing hospitals or bits of hospitals, also involved in developing services and buildings, new building projects. So, for example, I was involved in the building of the breast screening unit at Seacroft Hospital and various things like that. So it's been an interesting and varied career, I'd say.
Wow, yeah, very interesting. But you haven't just been doing that with your time. I've heard that you have a second career, as it were.
Well, yes, I have, and that sort of came about by accident, I suppose. Well, I suppose just to be clear what we're talking about, I've had a sort of ministry as a Christian clown for the last 25 years, although I think I've probably gone into sort of semi-retirement in that as well, but I'm sure I could be pulled out. Yeah, so what happened was somebody bought Andrew, my husband, some juggling balls as a Christmas present, and they sat in the pile of things that you wait to go off to the next church sale or raffle because you don't really want them. I was at home with two small kids, and one day I just picked these juggling balls up and found that I could do it. It coincided with the European Juggling Convention being in Leeds, went along to that, got a bit hooked, went to a juggling club. And yeah, I really did get the bug. So I learned how to juggle, plates and balls and clubs and diabolos and flower sticks and stuff like that. And I sort of became the diocesan juggler. And then in 1995, I took part in a springboard mission with John Holmes, who was the diocesan missioner at the time. We went down to Cardiff, and he asked me if I'd lead a workshop in the sports centre on the Saturday morning, and then he was going to do a faith sharing interview with me at the end, when he would interview me while I was juggling. We really should have rehearsed this, because what happened, there were no radio mics at all, so I was juggling away and John kept pushing this sort of hand mic towards me, asked me a question, pushed the hand mic would hit the balls would fall on the floor, so we sort of adjusted our style. He stood further away with the mic, but then of course nobody could hear what either of us were saying, so it was an absolute farce, total pantomime. But it got me thinking. I wasn't, neither of us were upset about it. Just thought, you know, there's some real possibilities here. And then that evening at some sort of social thing, somebody said, would I do a talk the next morning in the service? It was Harvest Festival. And I'm the sort of person that likes preparation. I don't really like things sort of sprung on me, but you know, you can't say no in that situation, can you? I'd gone down as part of a mission team. So I sort of spent most of the night trying to work out how I could do a sort of clowning routine in this Harvest Festival. And basically did a 5-minute routine that it involved juggling some hard-boiled eggs, which were sort of rapidly boiled sort of during the night. I had a ball, thoroughly enjoyed it, and you know, got some very good feedback. So that was the start of a journey, really. And I'd heard of a guy called Rowley Bain, who was an ordained Anglican priest and also a Christian clown. So I searched him out, went to some of his workshops, read his books, and yeah, after over a period of time, Rainbow emerged, Rainbow the Clown. So I didn't wear very much makeup because I'm conscious that a lot of people are quite frightened of clowns, and clowns, you do have to be careful. So I just used to have a little rainbow painted on my nose and two black crosses on my cheeks, and wore rainbow coloured stuff. But I tried not to be too scary. Yeah, and I suppose I've used quite basic circus skills, if I'm honest. You know, I'm not a circus whiz, but basic circus skills just as a way of getting people's attention, so that you can fill the space then with a message. And yeah, I've been all over the place in churches, in schools, youth clubs, prisons. Mothers Union used to like me, and it's interesting because I actually found that. So I was really just using it as a storytelling, faith sharing vehicle, and it was older people often who surprisingly got as much out of it as the kids, because I think what clowns do is they do give people permission to play, to sort of connect with the child within, I suppose. And the challenge for me, I suppose, is to be more like Rainbow than Deb, because I think Rainbow is a better version of me than I am. You know, Jesus said, you know, God chose the foolish things of this world to shame the wise, and unless you turn around and become like little children again, you'll never enter the kingdom. And I think clowns can teach us so much about faith, hope, and love. Clowns, you know, classically they're prepared to take risks. They're prepared to put themselves out there. They believe in things that they can't see. They really do have faith. The clowns and such optimistic, hopeful creatures. You know, the clown always fails, always trips up, catches for the custard pie in the face, but always picks themselves up, dust themselves down, go again. You know, never defeated. There's a real sort of resurrection thing there, I think, in clowns. And this thing about love, clowns just, you know, respond to everybody and everything, and they understand that. I think it's through giving that they're blessed, if you like. So when clowns give, they always give 100%. When they share everything they've got, and when they love, they love, you know, without any conditions, without any boundaries. So yeah, I like the theology of clowning, and it's obviously a way to liven up worship, but I think it's a bit more profound than that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I can feel already kind of the answer to this question, but where is God in your clowning or in your professional life?
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully sort of the answer to the last question showed a little bit where I think clowning fits in with the gospel. I think in terms of my health service work, I think the values of the NHS sort of sit alongside kingdom values in lots of ways. That, you know, the NHS is free to people at the point of view. So it doesn't distinguish between rich and poor, good and bad. It's a service that it takes social justice very seriously. It's inclusive. It's about equality of access, equality of provision. And those sorts of values were really important to me in terms of choosing a career. I think the NHS is a people business. You know, we deal with people who, when they're at their most vulnerable, when they're at their most frightened, disadvantaged, close to death often. And I think as a manager as well, I think you've got responsibilities to the people that you manage, and certainly that was something that I hope I took seriously as a manager, because people don't leave their home life or their cares and woes when they walk into work. They bring everything with them. And if I sort of think back over my work ministry, I think probably some of the most significant conversations and were with people as you help them either deal with tragedy or challenge, or sort of celebrate the good things with them. So and I suppose the obvious thing is that, you know, the NHS is a healing business, but that's an interesting one, because I've seen massive advances in science and medicine over nearly 40 years, and even in the last 10 years we're doing things that we couldn't do, you know, 10 years ago. But I think, you know, Jesus' ministry made it really clear that healing was about love, and I do think that prayer and faith do have a really important part to play in healing. I'm not denigrating the skills of the clinicians there; they're obviously fundamental, but it's not the full answer. Sometimes I found it hard to find God at work, if I'm honest. Hospital management isn't always an easy gig. I mean, lots of jobs aren't, but particularly in the last 10 years with health service cuts and you know, financial constraints, I found it hard to have to, you know, restrict services, to limit investment in services. I've had to sack people, and just the pressure of, you know, long days, back-to-back meetings. You don't always have the time to give to people that you'd want to. And sometimes, you know, if I do the what would Jesus do test at the end of every day, I think, you know, I'm not sure that Jesus would have done that. So often I've just had to offer the messiness and the, you know, the stuff that wasn't great up in prayer, but try and, you know, you can't, particularly, you know, working as a hospital manager, you're not managing your own business. I couldn't always argue with what I was asked to do, but I didn't have any choice. But the choice you've got is the way you do it. So I always try to do that with, you know, by showing respect for people, by involving them, by communicating well, sense of humour, saying thank you. But yeah, good and bad across a 38-year career, but I've got no regrets at all. I feel very privileged to have done what I've done.
Okay, yeah, very good. So this is just a bit of a curveball question, but where does your faith come from?
I mean, I'm very lucky. I think I was brought up in a Christian family, and mum and dad were both confirmed Christians, and so I don't remember a day when Jesus wasn't part of my life, and we were a family that you know, prayed together and did church together, and I didn't do that sort of teenage thing where you fall away from church. I was I suppose a bit of a goody two shoes, really. I stuck with it. I fell apart a little bit at university because I was a member of the Rambling Club, so I used to go rambling on a Sunday rather than going to church. But I suppose my not crisis, but my, you know, making the decision for myself came sort of in my 20s, where it was, I just couldn't get my head round the fact that Jesus had died for me. I just couldn't intellectualize that at all. But no, I think I could intellectualize it. I didn't have it in here because, you know, I thought, you know, okay, I'm not perfect. I've not done anything that bad. Why would somebody have to die for the fact that, you know, I didn't do the washing up, or I've been a bit cheeky to somebody? And I read about it, and the penny just didn't drop at all. And then I was on a parish weekend at Thwing in North Yorkshire, and it just happened gone up for communion, and it was the that sort of song, "Broken for me, broken for you, the body of Jesus broken for you." and it just came out at the altar table, just in floods of tears. Just, you know, wasn't expecting it, don't know why it happened, but it was a real filling of the Holy Spirit, without a doubt. And not that and I suppose it was that confirmation, the personal confirmation for me of something that it'd been handed down to me, but I think at that moment I claimed it for myself, really. But you go up and down, don't you? You have times where you feel very close to God, and times when you can't really work out what it's all about. So I still feel I'm on the journey, but and I think lockdown's been really important for me. I think you know, I had gone down to part-time over recent months. I've had a bit more time, and just to find the time to put a better discipline of prayer and quiet time in has helped. So yeah, looking forward to the future.
So what does the future hold?
Well, most of our plans have had to be shelved because of coronavirus. So plans to go on holiday and visit friends up and down the country are on hold. I think more of the same, but perhaps at a more leisurely pace. I mean, we're quite active people. We cycle, and we've got a little caravan, so you know, we'll hope to get away a fair bit. We've got a new grandchild on the way later in the year. Thank you. And I think just an opportunity to get more involved in community life. I think when you've got a busy full-time job, that's really what you do. And I found it hard to commit to things within the community, within the village, and also within the church. So hoping that, you know, can offer a bit more of ourselves in those areas.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Deborah. I really appreciate what you said. Very powerful testimony about God in your life. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.